What is going on, everybody, and welcome into the Thursday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. We're 25 and a half hours. Is it 3 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow?
I think it's 3 Eastern.
So 25 and a half hours away from the trade deadline. Haas is throwing a fit that Colton Parayko exercised his right to decline a trade to Buffalo. Good for him. I wouldn't want to go to Buffalo either with 5 years left on my deal. But we do have 8 games here tonight. A lot of news just from the fact that a lot of these teams are going to be trading a lot of these players. So today's slate, tomorrow's slate is just going to be very news heavy. You just have to be by your phone, by your computer, especially if you're MMEing. It's going to be a little NBA-like, I would say. Ducks are going to win the Stanley Cup. Go seek a good therapist. But joining me to break it down, some Cliffy. What's going on?
Yeah. Going to be – I don't know how busy the next couple of days are going to be. We've seen a fair bit of movement already. Obviously, Weegar was traded. Chicago traded Dickinson and Murphy. Panarin went before the Olympic break. I don't know how much Nashville wants to trade, because they're not that far out of a playoff spot. And, Ryan O'Reilly theoretically could really help them get to the playoffs. That's kind of the issue here, right? Is a lot of teams aren't really that far out of the playoffs. You might have, 6 teams? Winnipeg, Chicago, Calgary, St. Louis, the Rangers, and Canucks that are definitely out of it. Everybody else, you can make a case that they might get in. So there's not really a lot to pick from. And I mean, how many players do you really want to trade from the Vancouver Canucks, right? It's what I find funny about Edmonton. They're like, you know how we're going to get better? Trade for a bunch of Chicago Blackhawks skaters. I do like Dickinson Murphy. I'm just kind of making a little joke, but you know what I mean. Anyways, we do have 8 games tonight. We're all obviously going to have to pay attention to a lot of news. The nice thing is that it is only 8 games. It's not 13, and half the slate locks at 7 o'clock Eastern. So half the games, we're going to know what the lineups are right at lock. So we should have most of the information. Obviously, could be some stuff trickling through the night, but that's just kind of the nature of trade deadline season.
I mean, if I was in the Nashville front office and I saw what Nick Roy got the Leafs back, he's under contract for 1 more year at $3 million. Ryan O'Reilly has one more year at 4.5, and he's a legitimate top 6 center. They would get a haul, but the problem is the Nashville front office is a bunch of Muppets. So who knows?
Yeah, Barry Trotz is retiring,
but he's still there. He's still in the building.
Exactly, the guy that's making the decisions for Nashville's future, the next 5-10 years, is retiring in 2 months. What? Anyways,
let's get into the slate. If you want to try out the Sims. You missed the flash sale on Tuesday, but we still got you covered. If you go to stokastic.com/pricing and use the promo code PUCKLUCK, that'll get you 15% off your first week or month of any subscription. Could be MMA, could be PGA, could be NBA. You got MLB coming soon. It's March. You can use it for any sport, any membership. 15% off. That promo code tracks our sign-up, since it's basically our new affiliate link. If you use PuckLuck, you are supporting us directly. Cliffy will do the pose Homer Simpson is doing on his shirt for every person we get to sign up on the last show of the season. He'll just, be stuck doing shoulder raises for an hour. But we will get into this slate. Not a huge fan of this slate. The highest total on the board is 3.3. Everyone's kind of right around each other. Some of these matchups are kind of bad, but you know what? Every slate is bad until you win money, and then they're good slates. So let's talk about it. Utah, Mammoth, 2.9 total. Heading into Philly. I was there yesterday. Philly sucks. They have a 2.7 total. Mammoth going Schmaltz, Keller, Genther, Cooley, Paterka, Kraus, Peyton, McBain, Yamamoto. So Travis Konechny is out for the Flyers. Sealer is out, but if you're playing Nick Sealer, you should, create a religion or something. Flyers are going Dvorak, Zegras, Tippett, Cates, Mitchkoff, Brink, Couturier, Barkey, Grabankin. So I know we were off the Mammoth the other night because it was a tough matchup, and then Protas got scratched and they scored 2 power play goals immediately. This is a bit of a better matchup here. Now, the top line of Dvorak, Zegras, Konechny was really bad defensively. You throw Tippett up there, they're kind of similar in the way they play defense. It's, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's not going to be very good defensively. I do like Keller, Schmaltz, Genther here. Not really a shocker. The thing is, what I was a little bit shocked about, and maybe, when we get a ownership update, we've gotten projections, just not ownership yet. It's coming. At 18,500, they have an 8.5% top two, 2.7% projected ownership. There's no ownership there. In their, I think it's 3 games or 2 games they've been together. I think they played together for a few minutes in other games this season. They have great numbers. Obviously, it's not shocking. You put the 3 best players or 3 of the best players on a team together, you're going to get good results. That Flyers top line, not going to be good defensively. It is Dan Vladar in net, and he has been great, but the Flyers penalty kill, also not great. Utah power play, nothing special, but they are fully correlated. They play good minutes. It's a good 5-on-5 matchup. I think, unlike the other night, I am much more in on Utah 1. We'll have to see what their ownership looks like. Even if it doubles, I'll probably still have interest there. The second line and third lines, I don't have a ton of interest just because, the Dvorak line is bad defensively, but the Cates line has been excellent defensively. Maybe Couturier, Barkey, and Grabankin aren't going to be great, but I don't really want to play Hayton, McBain, Yamamoto. At 9,600, if you're MMEing and you want to do something ridiculously expensive with Tampa or something, you can do a Hayton, McBain 2-man or something like that. But for me, it's definitely Utah 1. On the Flyers side, it's going to be the Flyers top line with Tippett there. It's going to be similar numbers offensive and defensively. They're 14,400, 7.1% top two, 9.7% projected ownership. They've been excellent offensively. And Dvorak and Zegras have played almost 300 minutes together. They've been great offensively. Throwing Tippett into the mix, I don't think is really going to hurt them defensively or offensively. I don't imagine Schmaltz, Keller, Genther are going to be world beaters defensively now. Mackenzie Weegar not going to be playing here tonight. And Sergachev is a game time decision. If he's out, Dursey, Cole, I think would be their shutdown pair. And while that's probably still fine, it might actually be better, to be honest with you. Dvorak, Zegras, Tippett would be the line for me. If you do want to go down to that second line of Cates, Brink, and Mitchkoff, they're 11,100. They've been fairly low event, but they have scored a little bit. Probably low event because, Mitchkoff took four months off and didn't realize that was a problem. But it would be both top lines for me in this game. There are some stuff for fillers in MME if the Sims give it to you, but I'm mostly focusing on the top lines.
Yeah. Utah's not coming, like you said, Utah's top line not coming in very much ownership. Now it's not a huge slate, but there are a lot of lines in that 17 to 19K range. There's the Islanders, Florida, Los Angeles, Columbus. There's this Utah line, Winnipeg, Toronto. It's not like there's only a couple lines to choose from in that price range, right? And it's not like they're the only line with low projected ownership in that price range, right? We'll get to Florida and the Islanders little bit later, they're similarly coming in with very little ownership, as is Winnipeg. So, like, it's not like they're like a tremendous leverage spot just because there are so many other options. And I would feel a lot better if it wasn't Dan Vladar starting. You know what I mean? What I do want to mention is that the Utah power play is something that's kind of struggled on and off this season. It has been better with Barrett Hayton there. 11 goals per 60 minutes with Hayton on the top unit. Like, that's pretty good, actually. So that does change things a little bit, just because, like, you know, the Flyers, one thing they've had generally over the years is a solid to good penalty kill, but that's not been the case this season. Since Christmas, they're in the bottom 8 of the league.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Bottom 8 of the league by goals against per minute, and over the course of the season below average. So, like, if this Utah power play all of a sudden is actually good, it kind of changes the profile of the top line, just because, as you mentioned, they'd be perfectly correlated, and they really haven't been racking up the power play points this season because the power play just hasn't been that good, right? You know, you talk about Clayton Keller. Clayton Keller had 10 power play goals last year. He has one power play goal this year. There's 20 games left. So if that power play all of a sudden is like a top 5, top 8 power play unit, that makes a big difference. So I kind of do like Utah's top line, and it's also more like process of elimination. It's that I don't really want to pay $13,800 for that second line. It's just not something that I find is necessarily appealing. Like, we'll get to Pittsburgh in a second. I'd rather much rather play the Pittsburgh second line. You know what I mean? The Philly top line is only like $800, $600 more expensive or something. So, like, I there's just not a lot that I really, if you want a 2-man like Hayton and somebody else from his line, okay. But for me, it's Utah 1. If I'm playing Utah, I'm playing Utah 1 and just banking on a hopefully improved power play taking advantage of a penalty kill that's just not been very good this year. On the Flyers side, like, I don't dislike Tippett, Zegras, Dvorak. I do think Zegras has kind of been, like, low-key, Zegras has kind of been the secret to any offensive success that the Flyers have had this year. It hasn't been Konechny or Mitchkov or anybody. It's been Zegras. So as long as he's there, it's fine. But I wanted to mention Mitchkov, Cates and Brink, because, you know, their last game against Toronto went to a shootout, and the top line got all the minutes. They all played like 21, 22 minutes. That second line played between 19 and 21 minutes. Now, if you want to chop off a couple minutes for power play, it's still 17 and 19 minutes. They hardly played the third and fourth lines in that game against Toronto. I'm not saying that's something that they're going to keep up, but one of the issues with that Cates line was that they were playing 14, 15 minutes a game. If all of a sudden they're even like 17 minutes a game, that changes things a lot for a line that's 11,100s. And, you know, they haven't been great this season, but at least they've been able to carry the play. 2.3 expected goals for, 1.9 against, 2.9 actual goals for in their 175 minutes together this season. Off the top of my head, that's something like 15% above league average. That's good for a second line, especially for the Flyers. So I think the Philadelphia second line, the Cates line, is what I like best on the Flyers side. And it's honestly probably what I like best in this game. This is not a game where if I'm playing single entry, I'm clicking in either side as a primary stack. It's like, if I have a expensive stack elsewhere, maybe I use Flyers 2. If there's a cheap line that I really want to play here tonight, then maybe I use Utah 1. Those are the two lines I like here, but they're not going to be one of the first 3 names that I click into my lineup.
Also, I mean, if Sergachev's out, Durzi's a fine power play quarterback. Like, he did it with the Kings. I don't know how much that is going to affect the power play, but we'll see. Florida Panthers, 3 total, heading into Columbus. Our Blue Jackets, 3.1 total. We can say our Columbus Blue Jackets again because bonus is starting Jack Reeves, but they are on the front end of a back-to-back, I think, right? No, they're not.
Oh, I don't think they play till Saturday.
Wow. Look at that. We're winning here. Panthers going Lundell, Lusterine, Reinhart, Bennett, Samoskevich, Kachuk, Rodriguez, Verhage, Marchand. Columbus going Fantilli, Marchment, Marchenko. Monahan, Jenner, Johnson, then Coyle, Sillinger, Olivier. Fabro and Werenski did not skate. They both said they're both game times decisions. Jenner's in. Werenski has been a game time decision since he got back from the Olympics. We'll see. They said he was going to take warm-ups the other night and didn't even come out, so who knows? If he's out, Denton Matejchuk would take power play 1 responsibilities. I'll start on the Florida side. We have different lines in top stacks than I just read, but I'm pretty sure what I read was the lines. Yeah. Again, I just confused myself. But again, for me, I'm going back to Bennett, Kachuk, Samoskevich. They've easily been their best offensive line out of the break. You get 2 of the 3 on the top power play unit. There's no matchup concerns coming back from the Columbus side. If you want to leave off Samoskevich and put in Reinhart or put in Marchand, I think you can make it a power play stack, especially now with Uvis Balinskis running the power play over Ekblad.
No, Ekblad was on the power play last game, even with Balinskis in the lineup.
Hate that for everyone involved. Maybe that changes. I don't know. Hopefully it does. But I guess at that point, you just leave Samoskevich in at 15,200. Like, he's not going to burn you at 2,900. They've been playing very good minutes. So, Florida 2 for me. You want to go to Lundell, Lusterine, and Reinhart at 13-4. That's fine. They play heavy minutes. They've been okay together this season. Lundell's looked a lot better of late than he had a really rough start to the season. So I think that aided to some of these numbers. So, but for me, it's Florida 2, then Florida 1. On the Columbus side, there's 17,900, 13.3% top 2, 12.1% projected ownership. They're fully correlated. Florida takes a lot of penalties. They have a pretty good penalty kill. And it's also not Bob and net. Tarasov on Narrative Street, been the better goalie. I think this is his first time back starting in Columbus, for whatever that's worth to anyone. But I honestly don't mind Columbus 1 here. They just play big minutes. They're fully correlated. 17,900, not super price prohibitive. These Florida lines just really aren't great defensively. So I think the big thing, and it hasn't really mattered the last 2 games, but it was against the Rangers and someone else, I forget. If Werenski's in, I'd be more likely to play him. If he's out, I'd be more likely just to go play Utah 1 for a couple $100 more. That second line does interest me at 11,000 because this year anyway, Monahan and Jenner have been excellent together. Kent Johnson, I know he's not a bonus favorite, but he has the offensive upside to play with these guys. I don't mind that second line as a filler at 11,000 even. You want to go to Coyle, Sillinger, Olivier, 10-7 because they get the shutdown minutes. Like, fine. Like, will Charlie Coyle ruin Jake's night? Yes. But for me, it would be Columbus 1, then Columbus 2, and then the Bennett line on the Florida side.
Yeah, we can't. It's funny the impact of Zach Werenski being in or not. I was actually looking at the ice time distribution since Bonus took over, and Werenski I think Werenski's played 13 games under Bonus. In those 13 games, he's played more with Charlie Coyle than he has with either Sean Monahan or Adam Fantilli, which is kind of interesting. And it's close between Coyle and Fantilli. It's like 5 or 6 minutes, and then Monahan's much further behind. I mentioned that because obviously the top line doesn't play a ton with Werenski, but if you look at the top line's goal scoring with and without Werenski on the ice this season, it's complete night and day. Like, the expected goals is like 35% higher would have Werenski on the ice, and the goal scoring is more than doubled.
Like Fox. Same thing with Fox and the Rangers.
Right? Like, it is pretty important. It's not to say that they can't get there, obviously, because you mentioned, Florida. We mention all the time, Florida's just not a good defensive team. They haven't been all season. Tarasov in net does change things. It is a big difference. It has been a big difference between Tarasov and Bobrovsky so far this season, right? Like, it's about a half goal per game. That's not nothing. I would feel a lot better about Columbus won if Werenski is in, just because the offensive difference of 5-on-5 is just massive with and without Werenski on the ice, even if they don't play a ton with him. To have absolutely no minutes with him, it really dampens the outlook. So, like, I wouldn't mind Columbus one if Werenski does play here tonight. If he doesn't play, like, a 12% owned Columbus top line, when I just mentioned, like, there are a whole bunch of lines in that price range that are very playable. I just don't feel the need to rush out and do it. So, I think for me, like, I would probably just go to one of the depth lines. I'd probably just go back to the Coyle line, honestly. Like, they do play a fair bit with Werenski. They do still generate reasonably well. Expected goals of 2.8, actual goals of 2.8 without Werenski. Those are above average. So that's something. I would, I don't mind Columbus 3 as a filler. I would honestly probably just go rather play the Philadelphia second line. So I don't think I'm going to be. If Werenski's in, that would change the equation. If he's not in, I don't really have a ton of interest in the Blue Jackets here tonight, given that there are other options in the same price range of the two lines that I would want to play. On the Florida side, we should mention we got to watch out for warm-ups. Like, I'm pretty sure Florida's just given up on morning skates. Like, they're just not doing them anymore.
Yeah.
Because Sam Miskevich was taken off the top line that Bennett Tkachuk line halfway through the game. They moved Carter Verhaeghe there.
Yeah.
Whether that sticks or not, we won't know until warm up. With Verhaeghe, that line hasn't really been that good. 52 shot attempts, 1.7 expected goals, 1.2 actual goals. Again, we say it all the time. Florida has, Matt Tkachuk, especially since his return, been making their bones on the power play. And it's not like the Columbus penalty kill is really anything special. Over the course of the season, that Columbus PK, bottom 10 of the league by goals against per minute, right around league average since Christmas. So things have been getting better, but it probably is Florida too. I agree with you that I would really have interest in this game, that Tkachuk Bennett, and then we'll see who's there. I'd like to see Sam Miskevich just because it would be cheaper, but we in top stacks we do have it with Carter Verhaeghe, and they're only coming in with 4% ownership. 7.4% top two stack at 17,700. Like, without Werenski, there's no match. I mean, even with Werenski, it's not like there's a ton of matchup concerns. Without Werenski, there's none. Nobody wants to play them. I do have concerns about the Florida power play, but if they can get 4 or 5 power play opportunities, this Columbus penalty kill is bad enough to give up like a goal. You know what I mean? Matt Tkachuk has 33 shots in his last 10 games. Sam Bennett and Tkachuk have been playing 19 to 20 minutes a game since they came back from the Olympic break. So you get quite a bit of ice time. I think it's a good, like, Bennett, Verhaeghe, Tkachuk. If that's a line at the start of the season and they play up to their potential, that line's like 20,500. You know what I mean? So please put Uvis on the top power play unit. But for me, it's Florida too that I really do like in this game. Honestly, that Reinhart-Lundell duo just really has not done anything this season. 2.2 goals per 60 minutes. They're just not scoring. And if they get there on the power play, then I want Bennett and Tkachuk. So the only line I really have interest in out of this game is that Florida second line.
Toronto Maple Leafs with a 2.9 total heading into Madison Square Garden. The Rangers have a 3.1. This game sucks. So the Leafs just traded Nick Roy. That affects the bottom 6. The top 6 is going to be Matthews, Nylander, Cowan, Tavares, Nyes, Domi. The Rangers, we have no clue. Because they ran lines yesterday, but if they were smart, they would hold out Trocheck here tonight. They are not a smart organization, so I don't know if they're going to. What they practiced yesterday was Zibanejad, Cooley, Perreault, Trocheck, Lafreniere, Radish, because why not? Laba, Shiri, Carte. How are you in last place? Last place. And still giving Connor Shiri minutes. Call up Brendan Othman, call up Brett Berard, call up any of these young guys and see what you have.
I mean, at least Adam Edstrom's back in.
Yeah. I mean, he got activated off long-term IR for the fourth line.
I mean, they're all fourth lines at this point.
Right. If they hold out Trocheck, Laba's going to move up, right? So it'll be like Laba, Lafreniere, Radish. But like what that does is fully correlate the top line. Zibanejad, Cooley, Perreault at 14,400. They're already coming in with a bunch of negative leverage. 10.4% top two, 18.3% projected ownership. And like, I know the Leafs suck. Like, that's not even a question. Like, Matthews and Nylander together are awful defensively. Nick Roy, one of their better penalty killers, gone. Joey Wolinette has been good. But, like, you take Panarin and JT Miller off this top power play. And if Trocheck's out, the power play is going to be Zibanejad, Cooley, Perreault, Lafreniere, Fox. Like, what do you even have there? Like, you have two net front guys. Like, Perreault he would be a super Walmart bin version of Panarin, I guess. And you have Zibanejad in Ovi's office. I don't know. Like, this power play is going to be powerless. 14,400 coming in 2x their top two. If Trocheck's out, though, this top line is going to play unbelievably heavy minutes. And that's the one thing, right? At 14,400, you'll see these guys play 20 to 23 minutes. I don't know. Do you really want to play chalk Rangers on an 8-game slate with they're missing Panarin, Trocheck, probably Trocheck, JT Miller? I mean, JT Miller's having an awful season, but I don't know. I know the Sims, we talked about a little bit. Sims are giving you a ton of Will Cooley, and you'll talk about that in a second. I think there's reasons to play them. I don't know. It just does not feel good at 14,400 at 2x their top two. We'll have to see what the rest of the lineup looks like in warmups. I don't think Trocheck's going to play, so we'll have to see. On the Leafs side, like Matthews and Nylander together just don't work. They haven't in seasons. But it still interests me at 18,900, Nylander, Matthews, Cowan, because, like, there's nothing there on the Rangers side. The one thing that is holding me back is Fox and Gavrikov pairing because they've been elite together this season. And if I'm going to spend 18.9, I'll just go play, Utah not facing Fox and Gavrikov and Igor Shesterkin, right? So that's the one thing holding me back. I have no interest in Tavares, Nyes, and Domi. They're just going to be a terrible line. The bottom six is completely depleted. So this game is awful, and the only line I'd have interest in is Rangers 1, but the ownership is going to be out of control.
Yeah. I was looking at Trocheck and Lafreniere over the last 2 years, the goal scoring without Artemi Panarin on their line. There hasn't been any.
Yeah. Taylor Radish will fix that.
1.4 goals per 60 minutes and 300 minutes of 5-on-5 without Panarin on that line. That ain't great. I was also looking at Mika Zibanejad this year when he hasn't had JT Miller or Artemi Panarin on his line.
Trash.
38 shot attempts, 472 against per 60 minutes.
Perreault's a stud. That's the only thing,
So, I mean, I think the salient point that you mentioned was the ice time, right? Is that honestly, even if Trocheck is in, I could see all three guys. I mean, at the very least, Zibanejad playing 22 minutes, Cooley probably pushing 20, even Perreault in the high teens, if not 20. given depending what they do with the power play. So like that's kind of the point is like I don't like this Rangers top line. I don't care the matchup. I really don't. The only good player I think is Adam Fox, and he's the defenseman. So like I don't really like this Rangers top line. Zibanejad has not shown the ability to drive a line on his own. I don't know, 20 years, 21, yeah, 5 years. But you mentioned the Sims. 3 of the top 5 positive leverage guys that they spit back at me. So that means exposure or how often they'd be in my lineups if I were to make X amount of lineups. Over projected ownership. Number 1 was Will Cooley. Number 2 was Mika Zibanejad. Number 5 was Gabriel Perreault. Just a ton of Rangers. Like literally 51% Will Cooley here tonight. That bothers me because I agree, like considering they're only 14,400 and they're probably going to play a ton of minutes. And this is a very good matchup. Toronto's terrible, right? Like this is a very bad team. The Rangers are also very bad, but they're, at least that top line is going to get a ton of minutes, and they have a defenseman that is better than anything Toronto's had in a quarter century. So I don't mind playing the Rangers top line here just because it gives you a lot of flexibility with what you can do with the rest of your lineup, right? Like they are going to come in with a lot of negative leverage, but then you can pair them with like Utah 1, who are coming in with no ownership, or you can pair them with, we'll talk about the Islanders. You can pair them with the Islanders, and then if Werenski plays, you can throw in Zach Werenski or Roman Josi, a super expensive defenseman. Like it gives you a lot of options to do with the rest of your lineup. I don't think I'm going to play the Rangers here tonight, but honestly, the fact that the Leafs are as bad as they are defensively, the fact that it is a road back-to-back, even if it was only in New Jersey last night. I mean, I didn't watch much of that game because I was watching the Detroit game, but they gave up 47 shots to the New Jersey Devils. That is obscene. That the Leafs have given up on the season. They're trying to get Berube fired. They're just George Costanza dragging around the World Series trophy in the parking lot at this point. So I get wanting to play the Rangers top line. I'm not sure I'm going to get there, but I couldn't argue with, honestly, if somebody told me they were playing 20 lineups and the Rangers top line is in like 12 of them, I'd be like, it makes sense. So like, I'm really at a kind of a loss what to do. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to play him, but I can't rule anything out just because they're so cheap with so many minutes and such a good matchup that it gives you a lot of roster flexibility. On the Leaf side, you mentioned how bad Domi and Tavares probably going to be. 75 minutes together at 5-on-5 this season for Domi and Tavares. 1.4 expected goals per 60, 1.6 actual. They're going to be terrible. They might be worse than, I don't know, like Labashiri Cartier or something. Like it's bad. So if anything from the Leafs, it's the Toronto top line. As you mentioned, like they're going to run into that Fox pairing quite a bit. Not ideal. Obviously, they have Igor Shesterkin. Toronto power play not very good. It's for me. I would probably two-man it. I would either do Matthews in Easton Cowan or Nylander in Easton Cowan. I don't think I would play Matthews and Nylander together. Just because you do have Tampa later on in the slate, and I think I would probably just rather play the expensive Tampa guys than a two-man of Matthews and Nylander. So for me, if anything, it's Matthews and Cowan or Matthews and Nylander. I guess my interest is on the Rangers side. I hate this game with a passion.
Just one off Easton Cowan. He's 2,600, probably play 16, 17 minutes. Just, one off Easton Cowan, one off Gabriel Perreault, collect your 9 points and do not pass go. Buffalo Sabres with a 3.3 heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.2. Buffalo, fresh off getting denied by Colton Parayko, are going Thompson, Krebs, Tuck, McLeod, Zucker, Quinn, Norris, Ostlund, Doan. Penguins today, morning skate went Raquel, Rust, Hayes, Novak, Chinnikov, Malkin, Kindle, Mantha, Brazeau. Honestly, Parayko not waiving is a blessing in disguise for the Sabres. That contract is long. But anyway, starting on the Sabres side, there's just a lot of ownership on Thompson, Tuck, Krebs here at 16K, 9.2% top two, 13.1% projected ownership. I get it because, Raquel, Rust, and Hayes haven't been anything special. Thompson, Tuck, Krebs actually have been fairly good offensively. It is Artur Shilov's in net for Pittsburgh, not Stewie Skinner. I don't know. The thing is, Pittsburgh has a very good penalty kill, so I don't really give a crap about power play correlation here. So I don't mind it. Just negative leverage on the road with Peyton Krebs, saying it out loud, it just feels kind of awful, especially when you have Easton Cowan at 2,600. You have Gabriel Perreault at 3,200 or whatever. There's no super big reason to go play 2,900, 13% owned Peyton Krebs, right? So for me, I would drop down to that second line, McLeod, Zucker, Quinn. They've been excellent offensively. They're going to see a fair bit of, the Novak, Malkin, Chinnikov line, and why they've been excellent offensively themselves. They've also been awful defensively. So I think, if I'm playing Buffalo, it's going to be the second or the third line, because the third line, Norris, Stone, Osterlund at 10-7 has been good as well. Both of these lines coming in under 2% owned for 11-4 and 10-7. You avoid the chalk Peyton Krebs of the world. So, the second and third lines for the Penguins aren't great defensively. Shooting on Artur Shilov's is a bonus. So I do like Buffalo 2 and 3. On the Pittsburgh side, with Avery Hayes back up on the top line, we'll have to get an ownership run there because we still have Ben Kindle on the top at 10.8%. But again, it's similar to the Sabres. They're just at home and a little bit more expensive. Novak, Chinnikov, Malkin have been unbelievable at 13,300. They're going to see that McLeod line. And just like the Novak line, excellent offensively, awful defensively. So honestly, I think my favorite line in this game is Pitt 2. I think Kindle, Brazeau, Mantha at 10-3 is a good filler as well. So I would probably go Pitt 2, Buffalo 2, Pitt 3, Buffalo 3. And if you happen to get either top line in 20 max, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. This is not a game where I'm interested in the top lines. One thing Pittsburgh's been doing is using the fourth line in the shutdown matchups. It's kind of like what Washington does sometimes with used to do with Nick Dowd, I guess. And they've been pretty good defensively this season. 50 shot attempts, 2.2 expected goals against, 1.3 actual goals against. That's not a very good matchup for Buffalo. And you mentioned the penalty kill for the Penguins. The top penalty kill in the league by goals against per minute since Christmas, second over the course of the entire season. So not a very good matchup for Tage Thompson. Then now, obviously, they're good enough to kind of blow up just about anybody on any given night. But negative leverage in a pretty bad 5-on-5 matchup, in a terrible power play matchup, that's just a whole bunch of no thank you for me. So it would be Buffalo 2 or Buffalo 3 that I would gravitate towards. Norris, Stone, and Osterlund just kind of stood out to me just because, Norris has been quietly pretty productive with the Sabres as long as he's been in the lineup. 20 points in 23 games this season. That's a 70-point pace. That's pretty good. Obviously, Josh Doan, we know how good he's been this season. 10,700. They're priced at a spot where, if you want to play the expensive Tampa guys, then you can fit them in here. And they do get those better Pittsburgh matchups, right? I was looking at Raquel and Rust this year. 3.2 expected goals against when they don't have Crosby on the line. I think it's pretty similar even with Crosby, but you know what I mean. Pittsburgh 2, 3.3 expected goals against. Not great defensively. The only matchup concern is the top line matchup. for Buffalo's top line matchup against the Nola Chari line. So like, it is the depth from Buffalo. I would probably lean Buffalo 3. I think either is perfectly fine. Both have a little bit of negative leverage. It's just a matter of how much you want to spend. On the Pittsburgh side, it's kind of the same thing. Like, what I do worry about with Pittsburgh 3 is like Buffalo's up 1-0 at the end of the first period, and Ben Kindle's back on the top line. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something that's something we could very easily see, even if it's just like a 1-1 or 2-2 game, like in the third period. I think Ben Kindle's going to move up. Like, Avery Hayes is probably only going to play, but one way or another, Avery Hayes is probably only playing 12 or 13 minutes here tonight. So that's the one thing I worry about with Pittsburgh 3. Like, if I do anything with Pittsburgh 3, it would probably be like one-off Anthony Mantha or one-off Ben Kindle rather than stacking anything. If I stack anything from the Pittsburgh side, it's the second line. You mentioned how good they've been. 4.7 expected goals per 60 together. Malkin's playing 19 minutes a game since Crosby got hurt. He has 18 points in his last 19 games. Obviously, we know how good Chinnikov has been. It's kind of funny. I watched that game the other night against Boston. He had 3 shots and didn't score, but I'm pretty sure he put a backhander off the post like in the first period. So he had 3 shots plus a post. Like, these, even when they're not scoring, these guys look incredibly dangerous. So Pitt 2 for me, 13,300. It's one of those lines, like if I'm playing a 15, 16, 17K line like Boston or we'll get to Ottawa, Nashville, like those types of things. Pitt 2 is one that I have a lot of interest in. So for me in this game, it goes Pittsburgh 2, Buffalo 3. Generally speaking, it's the second and third lines for both teams is where my interest in. I agree on that.
Boston Bruins, they 3.2 total. Heading into Nashville, the Preds have a 3.2. So they labeled, like the coach said, Ryan O'Reilly is day to day, and then they said he's a game time decision for tonight. Like, that's confusing.
Well, somebody, who was it? Brooks Bratton said O'Reilly's not playing tonight.
Yeah, it seems like he's not going to play, but they didn't close the door on it. But we'll see here. Boston's going Lindholm, Pastrnak, Kuznetsov, Zacha, Middlestat, Arvidsson, Minton, Geeky, Esamont. Nashville lines are just going to be projected, right? Because if O'Reilly's out, I have no idea what they're going to do. Because they called up 3 guys that are in the lineup.
Svechkov, O'Reilly's out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe they move Stamkos back to center and go like Stamkos, Marchessault, Forsberg.
Well, they just put Hall in O'Reilly's spot when he got hurt last game.
So it could be Halla, Stamkos, Marchessault, and then Forsberg, Evangelista, Fedor, Svechkov. Like, we just don't know.
If I had to guess, it's going to be Stamkos, Halla, Marchessault, Forsberg, Matt Wood, Evangelista.
Okay, so like Forsberg, Matt Wood, Evangelista is at least somewhat interesting, but 14,300 that line would be. Like, again, Evangelista has been Forsberg's been great, but Evangelista's been their most consistent forward. Halla in between Stamkos and Marchessault would be a hard no for me. It would be something with Forsberg and Evangelista. Again, we won't know unless they give us definitive lines. I want nothing to do with Marchessault or Stamkos without O'Reilly or Forsberg. So it would be that second line, whatever it is. I wonder, with O'Reilly out, maybe Evangelista sees top power play time. Not going to hold my breath. But again, it would be something with like a one-off Evangelista, one-off Forsberg, or two-man Evangelista Forsberg. Save some room for a center. I don't know. I would probably just do one-off or two-mans until I knew the lineup definitively, because Boston does take a ton of penalties and they aren't great defensively. So, Don't mind Forsberg, don't mind Evangelista, but without O'Reilly, they're going to struggle on both ends of the ice. And unfortunately, these Boston lines kind of suck. So, like, Pastrnak, Lindholm, Kuznetsov at 16.8, 8% top two, 8.7% ownership. Like, they just don't do anything. And if they do, it's Pastrnak. So, like, a one-off Pastrnak. I think you can play him with Lindholm just because they're on the power play together. You can leave off Kuznetsov, add in Pavel Zacha to make it 17-4. If you add in Morgan Geekie, then you're looking at like 19 and change, and I don't really want to do that. So I probably do like Zacha, Lindholm, Pastrnak at 17-4 in this matchup. Like, they're going to be rough defensively without O'Reilly. I don't mind that second line just because, like, there's going to be people way out of places here. And Zacha, Mittelstadt, Arvidsson in a very large sample, not creating a ton, but they've been scoring pretty consistently all season. So I don't mind that. A two-man of Fraser, Minton, Geekie, I think is fine. Their offensive numbers together haven't been great, but, like, they're going to be facing the bottom six of this depleted Nashville lineup, so I don't mind it, but it would be something with Pastrnak for sure with Boston.
Yeah, I shouldn't say interesting. Maybe the interesting thing about the Nashville power play is like, without O'Reilly, Stamkos is the only guy who can take faceoffs. Because, like, sometimes you have, like, guys on a team like Ryan Green in Chicago takes a lot of faceoffs for the Blackhawks, even though he's a left wing next to Bedard. Like Forsberg and Evangelista and Marchessault and those guys don't take faceoffs. Like, they just don't. So you have Stamkos, and then that's it. And typically, a lot of teams like to have two guys that can take faceoffs, especially guys of opposite handedness, one left, one right. So while I would hope Evangelista goes to the top power play unit, I'm not sure that he does. You know what I mean? It's like if they want to get another guy who can take faceoffs on the top power play, it's like, does Svechkov go on the top power play? He's a left-handed center, right? So, like, man, and dare I say it, does Eric Holla go on the top power play unit? I mean, he's a left-handed center too, right? So, like, him and Stamkos would be a lefty-righty center duo on the top. And the only reason I'm talking about this extensively is because it is a pretty good power play spot for Nashville, right? The Bruins, third most time shorthanded since Christmas in the league, most time shorthanded per game in the league this season. So, like, and the penalty kill on top of that is just not very good. So, like, this is a very good power play spot for Nashville. I don't know who the fourth guy is going to be. I assume it's Evangelista because he's by far the best forward that wouldn't be on the top unit. But if they want to put a guy that can take faceoffs, it's one of Holla or Svechkov. I would guess Holla. And then all of a sudden, Stamkos, Holla, Marchessault would be perfectly correlated. That's why it's kind of annoying, right? Is like, if we had a better idea, it's not like I would necessarily have a ton of interest in playing Stamkos, Marchessault, Holla, but that line is 13,400, and they would be perfectly correlated at home with Nashville having a 3.2 total. You know what I mean? So, like, there are just reasons why I'm trying to game this out. Like, I'm going to assume it's honestly, I'm going to assume it's all on the top power play unit. And now that line would be perfectly, like I said, perfectly correlated at 13,400. It's kind of a gamble. And the thing is like, by the time we find out what the lines look like just in warmups, let alone the power play, half the slate's going to be locked. There's not really a ton elsewhere. Like, you know, if you leave a couple $100, maybe you can go play the Ottawa top line, Winnipeg too, like that type of thing. It would be a risk, but I think that Nashville top line might be perfectly correlated here tonight. I don't really have a lot of interest in them. I think like a one-off Evangelista or a one-off Stamkos, like those kinds of things are fine. My interest is on the Boston side. Just like without Ryan O'Reilly, there's just not a lot that I'm worried about from a defensive perspective. On the Nashville side, like they throw out Jonathan Marchessault, Eric Holland, Steven Stamkos. It's a shutdown line for David Pastrnak. Even with Elias Lindholm, I would lean to the Pastrnak side. You know, they haven't been generating a ton, but 3.4 goals per 60. Pasternak is generally one of the most efficient scoring chance creators in the league. Like, he can do the most with the fewest amount of touches. Him and Lindholm have been skating well over 20 minutes since the Olympic break. So I guess for me, it's Boston 1 at 16,800. Like you said, if you want to put in like Zacha instead of Kuznetsov or something, I guess that's fine. But he's been quietly productive even in limited minutes. So for me, it's Boston 1. Boston 2, I guess, is like, they're perfectly fine as a filler, but there are just like, once you get down to 11K, I would probably rather go play the Flyers second line, the Buffalo third line. There are just other spots I'd rather go to. So I think it's Boston 1 or bust for me out of this one.
If you knew Haula, Stamkos, Marchessault would be fully correlated, would you rather play them or Rangers 1?
I don't know. I'd probably just self-exclude.
Yeah, I'd probably just commit seppuku. But oof, because they're in the price range. But anyway, let's talk about players on a good team for once. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.1 total heading into Winnipeg. The Jets have a 2.5. Tampa didn't have morning skate, I don't think, or they didn't run lines. Basically, the top 5 are going to be Point, Gensel, Hagel, Cirelli, Kucherov. Bjorkstrand like rotates back and forth. He'll play his 14 minutes or whatever. Jets doing the thing that annoys me to death. They're going Scheifele, Connor, Iafallo, Lowry, Perfetti, Velarde.
I mean, I should mention in that game against Minnesota, they did leave Kucherov, Gensel, Point together for pretty much most of the game, especially once they got down early.
Yeah, and that's 23,200. They have an 18.4% top 2 and 3% projected ownership. Like 23,200 is a lot. Lowry and Perfetti have been good at both ends of the ice. I don't know what adding Velarde there is going to do. Like, Velarde is way better offensively than Iafallo, but he's probably not as great defensively. But like a Point, Gensel, Kucherov line is matchup proof, essentially. We saw that line at times last year at 26,000 and change. They like, the one thing is like, they don't, last season at least, they didn't have overwhelmingly great offensive numbers. You're also going into the Lowry line. You're going into Connor Hellebuck, but there's still no Josh Morrissey. The penalty kill is better than it's been in years, but it's still not anything to write home about. Yeah, like for me, it's going to be Kucherov, Point, Gensel. I think two-manning Cirelli Hagel is completely fine here. They don't get top power play time, but they're going to play, 19, 20 minutes. I think for me, I would find a way to get Kucherov in. I'm kind of started playing similarly to Cliffy, where like spending 23K for a line in single entry is not something I'm doing, especially on the road. But, tons of positive leverage. They're missing Morrissey. I wouldn't blame you if you played them. There's tons of lines in that 10 to 12K range that fit with them that we've talked about already. So, yeah, I do really like Tampa 1. I think, a two-man Cirelli Hagel's fine. On the Winnipeg side, I'm just not spending 18K for Scheifele, Connor, Iafallo. Like, Tampa's generally been very good defensively. They have an excellent PK. Winnipeg is a power play merchant type team. Vasilevsky's probably going to be in net. I guess the second line is where I would want to be, but they're at 14,700. They're more expensive than the Rangers top line, who are going to play over 20 minutes. They're more expensive than that Nashville top line, who are going to play close to 20 minutes. Like, they're fine, but it's like no real reason to play them at 14,700. So, a two-man of Lowry Perfetti or Lowry Velarde is fine. I'm out on the top line. It's really just Tampa big boys.
Yeah, I'm just not playing the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, I'll save myself a lot of time there. Yeah, on the Tampa side, like, normally I don't play super expensive lines, but that's more the big slates. Like, Tuesday, I think it was an 11-game slate, like something like that. Like, I'd normally just pass on the expensive lines. Of course, Edmonton nuked the board, but that happens. An 8-game slate, it changes the equation a little bit for me, especially where, like you said, there are a bunch of very cheap lines we talked about that I don't mind playing. Pittsburgh 3, Buffalo 3, Columbus 3. Those lines are Boston 2. We just talked about those lines are all 11K or under. Tampa Bay's top guys. Now, I think Tampa Bay's has played 4 straight overtime games, so grain of salt and all that. But I believe their top guys have all played. It's Winnipeg that's played 4 straight overtime games. Sorry, but Kucherov is averaging 23 minutes a game over his last 4 since the Olympic break. Point and Gensel between 20 and 21. Obviously, those guys are going to get heavy minutes. The top line with Gensel there, 4.1 goals per 60, and they're perfectly correlated. Like, that was the thing with Tampa's lines at times this year was like you'd have Gage Gonsalves up on the top line, or you'd have Brandon Hagel up there and he wouldn't be on the top power play unit, like those types of things. Now that Tampa top line is perfectly correlated, and this Winnipeg penalty kill, about average by goals against per minute over the course of the season, below average since Christmas. Like, this doesn't seem like a bad power play spot for Tampa Bay. So I don't mind Tampa 1 here, just because it is an 8-game slate. There are a lot of cheap lines. I have absolutely no issue just rolling out the Tampa Bay top line. So for me, if I play anything in this game, it's Tampa. Like, if you just want a one-off Kucherov or Gensel or something like that, I'm perfectly okay with it. And when I did run the Sims, like, it didn't really like the defenseman that much. But like Kucherov and like Bjorkstrand, who's also on the power play, came in basically, their exposure came in right at their projected ownership. So like I do like Tampa 1 here. That's the only thing I really like in this game.
Yeah, I was just scrolling Twitter looking to see if anything was going on, but I saw that Montreal put Slavkovsky back on the top line in practice today. Second line of Newhook, Demidov, and someone I forget already, Kapanen. So there's that. Ottawa Senators 3.3 total heading into Calgary. The Pilot Lights have a 2.7. Senators going Stützle, Batherson, Giroux, Cousins, Kachuk, Grieg, Pinto, Amadio, Cousins. Flames going Backlund, Coleman, Coronado, Kadri, Zari, Farabee. Frost, Sharangovich, Greedon. They traded Mackenzie Weegar. Oli Mata not going to be in the lineup here tonight. That leaves a big hole on their blue line. It's probably going to hurt them at both ends of the ice. Hopefully it's Zane time in Calgary. But on the Ottawa side, it's just going right back to the Kachuk line. For me, Cousins, Kachuk, Grieg, 15,700, 6.3% top 2, 6.5% projected ownership. I think you can turn it into a power play stack. I know the Flames penalty kill has been shored up after a rough start, but now Weegar's gone. I don't know. Like, you could leave off Grieg and add in Drake Batherson. It makes it 17,400. I think that's fine. But it definitely is that second line for me. I think going to the Stützle, Batherson, Giroux line at 14-6, also fine. They've been very good in over 100 minutes. But for me, it's Cousins, Kachuk, Grieg. On the Calgary side, like, this is just a brutal matchup at 5-on-5 for them. They're coming in negatively leveraged. So I'm just out on the Flames.
This is something that's pretty funny. When I was writing about Mackenzie Weegar this morning, there are 156 defensemen who've played 700 minutes at 5-on-5 this year. The worst goal share in the NHL, Tyler Myers. He just got traded. The second worst goal share, Mackenzie Weegar. 34% goal share for Mackenzie Weegar. I was looking at a lot of the like tracking stuff. Like a lot of the tracking data for Weegar looked pretty normal for him. Just really bad save percentage and shooting percentage when he was on the ice. So it's one of those things like I don't think losing him necessarily helps the team, but how much worse can things get than a 34% goal share? You know what I mean? Like, I don't suspect Calgary is going to be very good from here on out. It's just like, I don't know how much worse, like whoever replaces Weegar, and then, there's that cascading effect, but however Weegar's minutes get replaced, I don't think it can really get worse than a 34% goal share. Like that is absolute. I mean, it can. Tyler Myers is 32%. So like, I'm not sure, but all that to say is like, I don't really have a lot of interest in Calgary here, generally speaking. The trade of Weegar is not necessarily why. It's more that they're just a very bad team. Negative leverage from a bad team is just not something that I really have a ton of interest in. I guess if anything, it would probably be the Kadri line. 3.3 expected goals, 3.1 actual goals per 60 minutes. Like they're actually scoring. So I guess that's something. And there's not a ton of negative leverage, 4.3% ownership, 3% top two stack. Like if you're in a 20 max or something or whatever, if you're playing a lot of entries and you somehow get Kadri's line in there, like, okay, single entry. I just think there are other lines in that spot I'd rather go. It'd be either of the top two Ottawa lines for me. Yes, Calgary's penalty kill has generally been pretty good this season. Mackenzie Weegar was a pretty big part of that. Third most minutes on the PK for the team this year. Second was Rasmus Anderson. So now two of their top three penalty killers are gone. I don't really have a lot of faith that the guys that whoever's left behind is going to be able to pick up the slack. So I don't mind if you want to do some sort of Ottawa power play stack. If I were just to play some Ottawa line, I agree with you on that. Kachuk Cousins Grigg line, 15,700, 70 shot attempts, 3.5 expected goals, 3.7 actual goals per 60. You get two out of the three guys on the top power play unit. I'm not worried about any of the matchups coming back from Calgary. Ottawa 1, very much in play here. They are only 14,600, so you save over $1,000 if you want to. They're a pivot away from a Super Chalk Rangers if you don't want to play Super Chalk Rangers. But for me, it's Ottawa 2 in this game.
New York Islanders with a 2.9 total heading into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 2.7. Back-to-back on the road for the Islanders. They're going Horvat, Barzal, Palat, Richie, Heineman, Drouin, Pajot, Lee, Holmstrom. I saw a stat today. It's like Kyle Palmieri still has more goals than Jonathan Drouin, and Palmieri hasn't played since American Thanksgiving. Like he's had a rough season. Kings going Kopitar, Panarin, Kempe, Laferriere, Moore, Perry, Byfield, and Armia still out. They do get Doughty and Trevor Moore back in the lineup.
They said Doughty's officially a game time decision.
Officially a game time decision. It seems like he's trending towards playing, unlike Ryan O'Reilly. That being said, I'll start on the Kings side since it's fairly quick with Byfield out. The only line of interest would be the top line, but they're coming in almost double-digit owned at 17,900 against Sorokin. With Kopitar up there between Kempe and Panarin, they're getting run over. And they're not controlling the shot share. Like, they are scoring. So from that perspective, if you get there in MME, like, fine. But, like, in single entry, I'm not playing a double-digit 17,900 Kopitar, Panarin, Kempe line. Just not doing it. Laferriere, Moore, Perry. Like, no thanks. So it would be the top line or bust. Don't really like them in single entry at all. If you happen to get a little bit in MME, that's fine. The Islander side is a lot more interesting. I just wish it was anyone but Andre Palat. But they actually, as Cliffy said, Horvat and Barzal can drag anyone to a decent line. And in 74 minutes, 3.3 expected goals for, 4.8 actual. No thanks to Palat. But this is a very good power play matchup because the Kings take an absolute boatload of penalties. What you could do is leave off Palat, add in Holmstrom, make it 17,600. You can put in Callum Ritchie, makes it 17,000 even. You can do the top line plus Holmstrom plus Schaefer, whatever. But it would be surrounding some sort of top line stack. I would maybe just go Horvat, Barzal, Schaefer. You know what I mean? I do like the Islanders top line. They have positive leverage. It's a great spot. Now, Doughty, if he's playing, like Doughty, Mikey Anderson is a very good defensive pair, but Kopitar, Panarin, and Kempe going out against top comp is just, they're not going to be good defensively. So it doesn't really concern me too much. So it would be the Islanders top line, some sort of Islanders power play stack. If you need cheap filler, Peugeot, Lee, Holmstrom would be it for me, but it's an Islanders power play game by a mile.
Yeah, I just don't have any interest in the Kings. I mean, just straight up one of the worst offensive teams in the league this year, facing the goalie that's probably going to win the Vezina. It feels like an easy pass for me, especially at that price. Like, I'd just rather go play Florida 2. I'm going to be honest, or Boston 1, or that Islanders top line, as you mentioned, with Platt there at 17,100. 3.4 expected goals, 4.3 actual goals with Palat on that top line. So they have been scoring. Here's the thing. I know the Islanders have a terrible power play. You know what's equally terrible?
Kings
Los Angeles penalty kill, right? 31st by goals against per minute since Christmas. Bottom 5 in the league over the course of the entire season. This is a pretty good power play matchup for the Islanders. Holmstrom is on the top line with Barzal and Bo Horvat. 4 games since the Olympic break. Holmstrom has 4 points with, I think, 8 shots. So, he's been getting involved offensively, skating 16 to 17 minutes a game typically. So, I have no problem taking out Palat and putting in Holmstrom. If you want to leave Palat there, no issue with that either. I would prefer them if Doughty was out of the lineup, just because, you're throwing Cody Ceci out there for 24 or 25 minutes. That's a matchup I want. But it's, we just won't know until warmups. But it is the Islanders top line that I have the most interest in this game. What I will say is that line of Pajot, Lee, and Holmstrom, that third line, if you do want to get into the depth defenseman from the Kings and the depth forwards, which there aren't a lot left now that Byfield and Fiala are both hurt, that Islanders line is at 3.4 expected goals, 4.1 actual goals per 60 at 5-on-5 this season and over 200 minutes together. They've been nitrous, as you might say.
They're going to run over the Kings bottom 6.
That's what I was thinking too. So Lee, Holmstrom, Pajot, 11,100 is another one of those super cheap lines I don't mind playing here tonight. Those guys have been playing 15 to 17 minutes, so they get decent ice time, and Holmstrom is on the top power play unit. So Islanders 1 is what I prefer in this game. Islanders 3 is perfectly fine as a filler, and if you want to take off Palat and put on Holmstrom on the top line for a power play stack, I have no issue with that.
Let's talk about defensemen here in the top. I'll include the guys 5,500 and up, since there's not many in the 6K range. You have possibly Werenski at 8,300, but then there's Yossi, Radish, Dahlin, Schaefer, Fox, contractually obligated Jake Sanderson, and Brandt Clark. If Werenski plays, he's the clear number 1 here tonight. I see Jake has propped up Roman Yossi's projection into the stratosphere. It's a fine play, just because Boston's penalty kill is absolute garbage, and they take a lot of penalties. So I'm fine with Yossi up there, but for me, if I'm looking a little bit cheaper, I think it's Adam Fox, Matthew Schaefer, Brandt Clark. Those guys. I don't know if there's a true need to go up into the 6K range and up. If it is, it would be for Yossi or Werenski, but I like the guys in this high 5s, Schaefer, Fox, and Clark.
Yeah. overall projection, the number one defenseman, assuming Werenski doesn't play, is Yossi by raw points. But points per dollar, Rasmus Dahlin is slightly ahead of him just because Dahlin is down to 6K. Just pretty reasonable for him, I find. Like, I know he hasn't necessarily had the season that we're hoping for from him. But he's put up the same DK points per game this season as Yossi has, and he's $1,300 cheaper. So something to keep in mind. I do like Darren Radish here tonight. Like, if you don't want to play the expensive Tampa forwards, Radish at 6,300 in a pretty good power play spot seems perfectly fine for me. And like, again, even with all those guys back, he's still playing pretty good minutes, 24, 26, 21, 23 over his last 4 games, even with their defenseman healthy. So he's not coming with any ownership. That might be a guy I would look to, especially in multi-entry. 5 to 6K. I wish we knew if Doughty was playing or not, because Brandt Clark, for me, makes a lot of sense at 5,500. If he's out, like Matthew Schaefer, I think certainly makes a lot of sense at 5,900. Jake Sanderson at 5,600. Calgary, obviously, trading some guys, might be sitting. I don't think they're sitting any guys. Like Blake Coleman was at morning skate today, so might not be sitting anyone. Never know. Maybe something changes by warm-up. But Jake Sanderson in a decent power, I should say decent, a fine power play spot. Ivan Provorov was still running the Columbus power play in their last game. Assuming Werenski's out, I don't mind Provorov at his price. Florida does take a ton of penalties, and he's only 4,400. Thomas Chabot, very reasonable at an even 4K as well. Tony DeAngelo is projecting well. I think that's just because the Kings are awful. Under 4K, Aaron Ekblad, assuming he's power play 1, like I guess, but he's like, I don't know, man. He's kind of like the Jake Gardner of Mikey Anderson's. So like, I think I'd rather play Dylan Sandberg at a similar price. Denton Mateychuk is fine. Ryan Pulock didn't play last night for the Islanders, and Adam Pelech ended up playing 22 minutes. Now that's typically around where he is, but that was also in a blowout loss. So like, if it's a close game and there's no Pulock again, maybe he plays like 24 or something. Hampus Lindholm also projecting very well. The Calgary defenseman, like somebody's got to play the minutes, right? Like Yan Kuznetsov and Kevin Ball are both projecting pretty well. I guess Zane Parekh is probably going to run the power play, but it's like, is it going to be any good? Probably not. But at least he gets power play minutes. Artem Zub also projecting well under 3K for Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, like Zane is min-priced, so I don't know if he plays more than 15, 16 minutes because they love the White Cloud Kuznetsov pairing and Ball, so who knows. But let's talk about goalies. Sure, why not? It's actually like kind of a weird goalie slate, like because I either like the expensive or the cheap. The mid-range is kind of not where I want to live. In the top range, we'll see who starts for the Kings. Kemper's a game time decision, but Linus Ullmark at 8,100 would probably be Ullmark and Vasilevsky, assuming he starts, would be the two for me. If Kemper starts, he's fine, but I don't really want to play Forsberg. I think Jack Greaves is also fine just because if you can hold him out of the net on the power play, he should see some fair volume. Going down into the sevens, I think Igor Shesterkin at 7,900. The Leafs look anemic. The Rangers also anemic, but Igor very good. And then down into the mid-range and cheap guys, I think if you want to play Igor, I think you could play Joey Wohl at 7,500. But you have Sorokin and Tarasov at 7,400. Those both interest me a fair bit. I think even like Devin Cooley at 7,300 is fine. I'd find the extra 100 for Sorokin. And then Connor Hellebuck at 7,200. I hate using goalies against Tampa, but if Winnipeg's going to win this game, it's certainly on the back of Connor Hellebuck, not because they, beat Tampa, 6-4 or something like that. So for me, though, I'd probably go something like Ullmark 1, in the expensive ones. I don't, and then like Sorokin sticks out like a sore thumb. He would be 2 for me. And then you could just fill in the rest from there.
Yeah, I should mention there's only one team playing tonight that plays tomorrow, and that's Florida. And they already announced Tarasov. So, like, the guys that haven't been confirmed yet, Linus Ullmark, UC Saros, Andrei Vasilevsky, I assume they're all playing just because their teams don't play tomorrow. But again, you always have to double check. The top projected goalie on the night and the top point per dollar value goes to Linus Ullmark. I don't think that's any surprise facing the Calgary Flames. I don't like playing expensive goalies on the road. However, pardon me. I might make an exception for Calgary. So Ullmark number 1. Darcy Kemper would be number 2. Honestly, if it's him or Forsberg, for me, it's kind of like 6. It doesn't really matter to me. Like at this point, I think they're fairly interchangeable. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen at 7,800 is kind of interesting to me just because there's no Crosby. I suspect that Pittsburgh will be just fine offensively, but UPL's had a pretty good season. So if you are maxed out, you can't afford like an 8,100 goalie. You need somebody under 8K. I think it's UPL. Ilya Sorokin, 7,400, I think makes a ton of sense against the Kings. This feels like famous last words, but I don't imagine he's going to give up like 5 goals on 23 shots or something like that. I really hope he doesn't. Ilya Sorokin is 7,400. Joey Woll, I suppose. Again, he's 7,500. I'd probably rather just play Sorokin at 7,400. That's why I don't really like Woll a whole lot. I guess Hellebuck at 7,200, but man, I'm with you. I really don't like playing goalies against Tampa. I think unless I really needed to punt, then I would play Hellebuck or something, but I would probably try to find the extra money. Danil Tarasov at 7,400 as well. So I think if I was play, I wouldn't go below 7,400 and play one of Sorokin or Tarasov.
Yep. We will be back on Saturday. Tomorrow, contests have usually been awful, so we'll be back on Saturday. Maybe we'll do something for the trade deadline. Who knows? But who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
Uncle Charlie Coyle tonight. He's going to get me a win for my best puck teams for Jack Reeves.
I thought you had a bunch of Charlie Coyle, and I was going to be very concerned, but that's all right. I'm feeling in a homerish mood going Gabriel Perreault.
Hey, all right. Godspeed to that.
Trade deadline tomorrow. May the Rangers trade everybody on the roster. Good luck, everybody, tonight, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Good luck tonight, everyone.